Hello, once again, here I am with the part 2 of the case study revision questions. In the previous video, I have posted the case study questions of the first 4 chapters as well as the brief about the entire YouTube videos that I've posted, what kind of study material you will get on OC from my channel, and the first 4 chapters case study questions. We now start with the case study questions of chapter number 5. Abhay purchases some gift articles online from the website www.flipkart.com. At the same time, Ms. Sheetal purchased gifts from ebay.com. Remember, the very fact that eBay is no longer a very popular website, this question cannot come. Today we have OLX, which is a C2C, customer to customer, website which is popular. However, let's go to the questions. Which website is related to C2C? So we are talking about eBay. When a customer sells another product to another customer, generally second-hand and used products. So that's called as C2C. Question number 2. Which website is related to B2C? www.flipkart.com is the website related to B2C, from which Abhay purchases gift articles. Question number 3. What first step does Abhay need to follow? So if he needs to do shopping, if you want to do online shopping, what is the first step we need to do? So we're talking about steps of online purchase, and that's your step number 1, registration. As we know, step number 2 is going to be, once you have registered yourself, you'll be placing an order, and step number 3 is payment. So the answer for this is Mr. Abhay will be required to register himself with the website by giving basic details like email, mobile number, and maybe the basic things like the PIN code, etc. So this is how you will be answering your question for the case study here. We go to the next case study sample that we have in the same chapter. Mr. Satvik purchases a watch from Titan, and his friend Sambhavi purchases watch from an online shopping site. Which is the traditional business? Mr. Satvik purchasing from a Titan shop. So he's actually visiting the shop, and that's the traditional form of business. So which shopping is from e-business? Ms. Sambhavi purchasing watch from an online shopping site is an example for e-business. Now you see the third question, which business involves high risk? We see that there is a comparison given in your textbook about traditional business and online business. E-business. So there are many factors by which they're trying to say that e-business is easier to start, e-business requires less of capital, and e-business is less risky. All right, so this is how your answer to this question could be, because they have given that kind of a comparison between traditional and e-business. Your answer to this question should be e-business is easier to start, requires less capital, and has lesser chances of losses, and so it has lesser risk, and traditional business can become more riskier. So this is how, again, debatable question. There is no black and white answer to this. In any case, let's go to the third one. Again, at September paper had a question on this. Mr. Wade made his payment by check. At the same time, Mr. Shlok made his payment by fund transfer. So once again, if you read this question, first of all, you might get an impression that we're talking about the banking chapter, but you read the questions and you'll get to know that we're talking about e-business, okay, emerging modes of business. First question, whose payment is faster? Mr. Wade has made his payment with the help of a check, and Mr. Shlok has made it through fund transfer. So the answer to the first question is Mr. Shlok, who uses fund transfer as a method of payment, will make the payment faster than Mr. Wade. So put Mr. Shlok inside a box. Next, whose payment is related to traditional business? Mr. Wade's, who is making the payment by a check, his payment is related to traditional business. Number 3, whose payment is related to e-business? Since Mr. Shlok makes the payment online through fund transfer, his payment is related to e-business. So I hope by now you've got a rough idea of how the answers have to be framed and how you will be finding it very easy once you've practiced a few of these questions. We now are on the 6th chapter. We see the case study here on page number 130 in your textbook. Mr. Yashwant or Yashwant Company Limited is providing facilities for their female staff by giving daycare center for their children and work from home facility. Also, management takes suggestions while taking the decisions, though they are members of the trade union. So their workers are a part of the trade union, but they still are welcoming their suggestions. So this is how the case has been presented. Now you are being asked questions on this. By doing this, they are following social responsibilities towards which interest groups. So we start the answer with this. Yashwant and Company is providing facilities for their female staff and taking suggestions from their employees, shows their responsibility towards the employees. Okay, so we have 6 or 7 categories: employees, customers, government, owners, shareholders, investors, as well as society. So this is how, the topics should be right in front of your eyes and you should be able to identify the group. Second question, what are the values that they are presenting? By looking after the needs of the female staff, they are honoring the social values for their employees. All right, so this is a one-line, simple, very vague question. If you will see the third question that you have, what kind of responsibilities is the employer following in the above case? If you try and recollect the titles of responsibility towards employees, you will see it starts with job security, it starts with, higher remuneration. Further down in that answer on responsibility towards employees, there's something like encouraging workers' participation in management, and that is this point that they are talking about. So allowing or recognizing trade unions. So these are the responsibilities, the kind of responsibilities that the employer is following. A very important clue I'm giving you from this question. You start immediately thinking of what are the head points of the answer on responsibility towards employees. Immediately you will get the answer to this question. Please note, nothing is there from under the, inside the passages or the paragraphs. It's usually the head points, the titles on which the questions are being asked. So this is about the first case study on this chapter on social responsibilities. Once again, this particular question of the paint manufacturer came in the September paper. The question is like this, as it is, the question had come in the paper. An organization manufacturing paints has been enjoying a prominent market position since several years. However, it has been dumping its untreated poisonous waste on the river bank, which has created many health problems for the nearby villages. All right. So if you read this passage, it immediately suggests to you that they are socially irresponsible towards the environment. Okay, so they're polluting the environment. Let us read the questions from here on. Which responsibility is neglected by manufacturing organization? Once again, we remember which are the interest groups that we have. We have consumers, government, we have society, community. All right. So if you see, this responsibility is about protection of environment. Okay, so they are neglecting the responsibility of protecting the environment, which is towards the community. So remember, this is not something about the government alone. We're talking about under the title of responsibilities towards community. The second answer, what kind of pollution are they spreading? They are spreading water pollution, because they say that the untreated waste is deposited in the river bank. So that's how water pollution is being created. Please underline water pollution, put it in a box. The third one, what precautionary measures they need to take? If you see a part of social responsibilities chapter has something about EVS, environmental studies. So that's where this question comes from. Remember, before throwing out the waste from your factories, production units, you must treat that waste. You must make it less harmful. You can even reuse the waste in some other manufacturing process. So that's what you have here. Precautionary measures could be either recycle or reuse or process it to make it less harmful to the environment. So that's your second answer here to the second case study. We go to the third one. A vehicle manufacturing company has adopted the following practices. First, only those components, they're using only those parts which will be used are environment friendly. Second, there will be discharge of harmful waste only after the waste has been treated properly. Okay, only after their proper treatment. The third case, pollution level of every vehicle will be maintained. So whatever cars they are manufacturing, pollution level will be maintained as per the international standards. So this is a case presented to you. Let us see the questions on this. By doing this, business organization follows social responsibility towards which interest groups? So once again, they're following social responsibility towards the community because they're following the social responsibility of protection of environment. Second, what kind of pollution do they want to avoid? We are talking about a car manufacturing unit, and so they are avoiding air pollution. The manufacturing unit is trying to avoid air pollution. Third, what kind of message do they want to convey? They are conveying that every manufacturer should be socially responsible and it is our duty to protect the environment. So this is how we answer this question of case study on social responsibilities. We move to the next chapter now. Mr. Asho visited a shop. He bought a pair of shoes for 700. The salesman forced him to buy a bigger size of an ordinary company, and he kept claiming, the salesman claimed that this size would be suitable to him. After reaching home, Mr. Asho discovered that the shoes are still too big for him. So he complained about the shoes to the shopkeeper. The complaint was not heard. He was denied. It was denied by the shopkeeper and he refused to replace the shoes in spite of the stock being available. So this is the situation. A case is presented. Let us see what are the questions here. Which right has been violated? So Mr. Ashok's right to choose. Since he wanted to choose another option and he was forced by the salesman. Once we are talking about right, please remember we are talking about obviously this is the chapter of consumer protection and you have to have the list of rights of consumers right in front of your eyes, and we very clearly understand that he's not been allowed to make a choice. So right to choose is the right of Mr. Ashok which has been violated. Second, comment on the right which has been violated. Once again, in other words, you are required to explain 2 lines on right to choose. All right. So you must know that just like you have a short note on rights of consumers, which is important in a board, one of that right has been asked in a case study question as well. So just a few lines on right to choose has to be written here. The third question, where can Mr. Asho file his complaint? Since we know that he has already gone to the shopkeeper and the shopkeeper has refused to give him any replacement, now Mr. Asho can go to the consumer court, and since his amount is quite small, he can file his complaint in the district commission to get justice for the wrong product sold to him. So this is what we have in the case study question on consumer protection. I would like you to take a look at the second question, though you see the third question in this case study is from a topic which has been deleted, that is responsibilities of consumers. We will still take a good look at it. So Ms. Meera has bought a washing machine of 50,000 without a cash memo. So she did not ask for a bill. And her washing machine was under a warranty period of 2 years. Before 2 years ended, there was some defect in the washing machine and she asked the company to repair it and replace it. The company did not accept her complaint despite the product being defective. This is directly from the topic of the question which we have in the board paper, which has been deleted. The topic has been deleted, and that's responsibilities of consumers. And so you don't really need to worry about this. That's all we have in this chapter. We move on to the case study of the last chapter now on marketing. As we see the case studies on the chapter of marketing, both the case studies in this chapter, fortunately or unfortunately, are based on the topic of types of markets. This chapter has the topic of types of markets deleted, and hence you don't have to do these two case studies. Remember, dear students, in your board exam, it is not necessary that the case studies will be appearing only from the questions given in the exercise. They could be general questions framed around the same pattern which you have in your textbook exercise. I'm sure if you have practiced these many case studies, any case study under the sun, you will be able to easily answer since you have learned the chapters. So step one, first identify the chapter. Then again, you try and find out what is the topic that they're trying to talk about. So once you have identified the chapter, you try and recollect what are the topics you have in this chapter. Immediately as you read the passage, you will find your answers are very, very easy and suggestive in the chapter itself. Now, take the case studies which have been given in the question bank. So as you know, I have prepared 2 videos, or rather 3 videos on the question bank solutions, that is part 1, part 2, and part 3. We now go about with some extra practice of case studies which have been given in the question bank by the Maharashtra State Board. So under the case studies, the first that we have, as you see on the screen, Navnath and Jagannath are partners of a firm dealing with civil construction activity. They have set objective of completing 3 projects. So there are 2 businessmen. They have a project of 3 years. So 3 projects which have to be completed in 4 years. Let us see what Navnath is doing. Navnath is responsible for arranging funds, construction, machinery, and required raw material. As you see the sentence, it immediately strikes you. This is from the chapter of functions of management as the questions appear, as well as we see here that Mr. Navnath is therefore doing the organizing function. Further, Jagannath hired architects, draftsmen, surveyors, contractors, and laborers. So he is doing the staffing function. So just after reading this, let us wait and see what are the questions they have for us. Name the management function that Navnath was involved in. As we saw, Navnath was responsible for arranging funds and construction machinery, etc. So we see Navnath was performing the organizing function. However, please note that Mr. Navnath is also doing the planning function. They have set objectives and they've taken up 3 projects to be completed in 4 years. So the answer to this first question will be Mr. Navnath is performing the planning function of 3 projects to be done in 4 years, as well as he's performing the organizing function of arranging funds, machinery, raw material. The next question. Who did staffing for the firm? A very simple question. So here we say Mr. Jagannath is performing the staffing function since he hired architects, draftsmen, surveyors, etc. Next, which management function is performed by both Navnath and Jagannath jointly? So once again we say Mr. Navnath and Jagannath have performed the planning function. Once again I repeat, whatever is the key word in the whole answer. For example, Mr. Navnath, here you will highlight the words planning and organizing. Here you will highlight the word Mr. Jagannath. And in the third question, you will highlight the word planning function. Correct? So this is how you have a case study here. In fact, the second case study you have is exactly what you have in your textbook. I will just give you the page number on which this appears. This is from the chapter of business services. And this case study appears on page number 92. So in my previous video on case study, part 1, I have already covered this, so we'll not be going through that once again. Let's go to the third one we have in the question bank. So extra practice for you, dear students, from the Maharashtra State Board. Third one, Mr. Sadagopan is a businessman. He has 2 factories in 2 different locations. He lives in Bhopal and his wife and 2 daughters are of this age. Mr. Sadagopan takes life insurance policy. Can he take a life insurance policy? See the question, can the father take life insurance policy for his 2 children? The answer is yes. Mr. Sadagopan can take life insurance policies for his 2 children because there is, the entire concept of insurable interest. So you may mention that, or even if you simply write, can he take, since the question is just yes or no, the answer should be yes. Mr. Sadagopan, because he is the father to the children, he has insurable interest and he can take life insurance policy. The second one, is child insurance suitable for a wife of Mr. Sadagopan? No. Child insurance will not be suitable for the wife of Ms. Sadagopan. If you feel you want to add a bit, you can say child insurance would benefit for the insurance of the 2 daughters. Question number 3. Which type of insurance should Mr. Sadagopan take for protecting his factories from loss due to fire? Now, since the factories are in 2 different locations, he will have to take 2 separate policies and covering under one, and that would be called as the floating policy. A very similar question to what we have in the textbook, but with different names. Going to the next case study, I'll briefly tell you what the whole question is about. The first case is where Sirish had only 15,000 in his bank account and he has issued a check of 20,000 which was cleared by the bank. In other words, the first question, the type of account that Mr. Shirish is operating, obviously when you are overdrawing from your account, you have overdraft facilities being issued, so you have a current account. All right. Further, the next part of the story goes like this. The case goes like this. Sirish wants to renovate his office. He wants a loan. So he applies for a loan and he's sanctioned and the money has been given to something called the loan account. Mind you, it has not gone into the savings or the current account. A separate account was opened and he has been given a loan. So Mr. Shirish, out of the loan of 25 lakhs, has withdrawn only 15 lakhs. Okay, only 15 lakhs. Therefore, if you see the second question, on which amount will Shirish will he have to pay the interest on loan? Since this is a loan, he has to pay interest on the entire amount of 20 lakhs. That is the amount which has been sanctioned, or not just the amount which has been utilized. That is the case for overdraft and cash credit. But since this is loan, he will be charged interest on the entire amount that is sanctioned to him. The third question in this case is talking about Mr. Shirish had a bill of exchange of 5 lakh rupees. He wanted the money, he couldn't wait till the due date. So he went to the bank and he got a discounted value. So instead of 5 lakhs, he's getting 4,75 lakhs, 4,75,000. In other words, what is the facility he's using? Discounting of bill of exchange. So this is how we have the three questions on the case study here, again from the chapter of banking. We see here the fifth question. There is a tinned food, and there are these instructions on the tinned food. Now the questions begin. Which right is represented in the above example? So there is information about what is the product, which is the batch number, the manufacturer's name, the date of manufacturing, the price, the weight. In other words, this is consumer protection chapter and one of the rights of consumers, and that is right to information. All right. So which right is represented in the above example? Under the Consumer Protection Act, the right to information is represented in the above example. The next one. If the product has deficiency and the producer refuses to accept or ignores the complaint, the consumer can seek redressal from district commission because his claim amount, his complaint amount is quite small. Okay, so that's how you will say it goes to district commission. The third one, state the act which applies to this. The act which applies to this is Consumer Protection Act 2019. So this is how we answer these questions. You go to the last case study in this. Auto Parts Limited is a renowned company situated in Chandrapur, and this particular company has leading manufacturer. It's a leading manufacturer of auto parts. It also exports to some countries around the world. Okay, so this company has set up, something worth 600 crores, and the last earned average net profit for the last 3 years is 1.2 crores. The company has formed a committee of directors to look after the CSR activities of the company. Naturally, since this is a large company, CSR is compulsory for them. Let us see what the questions are. Provision of which section? Okay. I'll tell you the page number where this will appear in your textbook. If you'll see, it's on page number 125. CSR is being covered there. You will see here that section number 135 under the Companies Act 2019 is discussing about the corporate social responsibility activities. All right. So that's the section number. Second one, how much amount does the company need to spend on CSR activities? It is at least 2% of the average profit of 3 years. So in this case, 1% or 2% totally would mean 2,40,000 will have to be used by this company for CSR activities. Number 3, how many directors are required to constitute the CSR committee? And the answer is 4 directors are required under section 135 of the Consumers Protection Act 2019. So dear friends, this is the revision for the case studies which have been given in the question bank. So this is all that I have in my video on case studies. I know it's a little long, but I'm sure this is going to be very, very helpful to you because lots of students have actually been asking me to make videos on case study questions. So I hope these many, in fact, we altogether barely have around 13 in this, and we've covered all of them. I hope that this video becomes very useful to you. Please share, subscribe, and make notes, write down these answers. You don't need to keep coming back to these videos. and share it with your friends for more and more benefit to everybody. Thank you very much for this. Hope to see you soon.